Nicola, good to see you. So tell us more about this clinical trial.
As you said there, Alajan, they've actually been doing this on young teenagers. This trial was based on the 12 to 15-year-olds. They had about 2,260 enrolled in the trial. Half of them got the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine, half of them got a dummy jab. And they found that out of the group who were given the vaccine, 100% efficacy, nobody got symptoms of coronavirus, tested positive for coronavirus. Those who were in the placebo group, got the dummy jab, 18 of them did get COVID-19. Now, what we don't know is whether they just had symptoms or whether they tested positive, because these are interim results. So we've just had a press release from the company. This hasn't been peer reviewed as yet. So it's been welcomed, obviously, because it's great to know that the vaccine works and is safe in a younger generation. But there has been some questions about when more information is going to be shared. Dr. Peter English, who's an expert in communicable diseases here in the UK, said he wants to know whether the trial showed the vaccine prevented asymptomatic infections, because that's one of the things that we know that children seem to have, which is why they're unwittingly able to spread the virus to adults, to their family, and that's one of the fears with going back to school. Will that mean that the virus starts spreading a lot more? So we don't know about that as yet, because, as I said, interim results. And Dr. English also said he's not sure whether they actually experimented to see whether a longer gap between doses worked in this younger population, because we do know, he says, that if you actually delay giving that booster, that second dose, it can increase immunity. So he says if they haven't done that, it may be a missed opportunity, but we'll learn more when we get the full results and they're peer reviewed.
Okay. Pfizer and BioNTech, not the only manufacturers of COVID-19 vaccines out there. What are the other vaccine makers doing with this age group?
Well, they're all doing something very similar. So Pfizer BioNTech have given the results of their 12 to 15-year-olds. The first jabs have started in the 5 to 11s, and then they're going to do 2 to 5s after that. Other vaccine manufacturers also doing something very similar. So Moderna are doing tests in the 11 to 16-year-olds. Oxford AstraZeneca are doing from 6 to 17-year-olds, 300 children enrolled in that one. We haven't had any of the results of those yet. You may remember, Alajan, last week we discussed the reports that have been in some of the UK press saying that all teenagers were going to be vaccinated before they went to school this September. Now, that was rubbish, with a lot of people saying, no, that's not the case. But obviously it is what all these manufacturers are hoping. I mean, Pfizer have said they're going to apply for FDA and EMA approval in the hopes that teenagers can be vaccinated before the start of the next school year. So that's the aim, in the hopes of preventing transmission.
Nicola, you know, when you start inoculating the younger end of our population, it obviously is going to bring the question of ethics. Talk to us about the ethics behind vaccinating children.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, isn't it? I was listening to Professor Adam Finn, who's a specialist in this area in the UK this morning, and he was saying if we're going to start vaccinating children to protect everybody else, which is one of the theories, it's if you start vaccinating the young population who are transmitting the disease but are not being affected or infected by it, can we justify that? Is it because you're then going to hopefully introduce some sort of herd immunity? Or are we doing this so that we can save their education? We can allow schools to be fully reopened worldwide, and that kids can all go back feeling safe because they've all been vaccinated. And that really is the thing that we have to bear in mind. So Dr. English has raised an interesting point, because of course, you start vaccinating adolescents, that's often the time when rare diseases develop in the human body. And so there's a fear that you might then end up with what we're having with the blood clot situation now. You know, teenagers being diagnosed with an unusual disease and the vaccines being blamed, even though there's absolutely no causal link whatsoever. So it's something to be cautious, and it is something to for people to be aware of. In a way, you know, if you're going to have your children vaccinated, you want to have the confidence that the vaccines are safe, and that's what the Pfizer BioNTech one is doing, and that's why the other vaccine manufacturers are doing these trials, so they can say, look, you know, let's vaccinate people of all ages, let's try and introduce some herd immunity, and we know these vaccines are safe, and it's convincing people and overcoming vaccine hesitancy for that to happen.
All right, our health correspondent Nicola Hill live for us from London. Thank you very much.